India can parallel Africa's big five animal for animal. Africa has its big cats, lion and leopard, and so does India, though India's lions are confined to just one park. Actually, when it comes to big cats, India has the biggest in the tiger. Point to India. The mega herbivores are also matches. African elephant to Asian, Cape and Asiatic buffalo, and Africa's rhinos mirror to the Indian rhino. The big difference is the big five can be found in many African parks, while no Indian park has more than two, except in one small state at the extreme edge of India. And in that state of Assam, there is one great park where all three of the giants can be found, as well as the leopard and tiger. Join us today as we explore Kazaringa National Park, land of the giants. Namaste, I'm Bill Ball, and I'm going to be your guide on this episode of Journeys in India. And this is India. When Mark Twain traveled through India at the turn of the 19th century, he wrote that India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in history are treasured up in India only. Join us each week as we explore the entire Indian subcontinent, from Kerala in the south to the Himalayas in the north and all points in between. We'll introduce you to the architecture, history, and culture of one of the most exotic, mysterious, and influential places on Earth. Journeys in India. Kazaringa National Park was established in 1968, though the area has been protected since the early 1900s. Today it is home to one of the last populations of the Indian or one-horned rhino, wild water buffalo, and Asiatic elephant. These are big animals that need large territories and huge areas for grazing to survive. That is available here in the state of Assam. Assam is located in the far, and I do mean far, eastern India, in that spit of land that extends into a peninsula like a finger. It is a culturally, ethnically, and linguistically distinct area. To reach Kazaringa National Park, you have to fly into the nearest major airport in the city of Guwahati. Then hop aboard a van or car and then drive between 4 and 6 hours, depending on the park gate that you're staying near. It isn't easy to get to Kazaringa, but that's why it is as wild as it is. Today we're going to explore Kazaringa National Park and look for the big three: the elephant, the one-horned rhino, and the Asiatic wild buffalo. Also, we're going to learn a little bit about the British era and a bit about the locals too. Kazaringa gets its name from a couple of potential sources. Legendarily, it comes from two young lovers from opposing local tribes, a boy named Kazi and a girl named Ranga, who fell in love, but their romance was forbidden by their families, so they fled into the forest together, never to return. On the other hand, historians believe it comes from the Karbi word Kazir Alrang, which means a village of Kazir, a common feminine name from a time when a female may have ruled this area. Now, I like to believe the romantic story, but you can pick for yourself. The park is a moist, almost swampy mix of savanna and forest. The abundance of rivers and marshlands makes it a perfect habitat for our big three: the rhino, water buffalo, and elephant. Along with these megafauna, the park supports 35 species of mammals and over 500 species of birds. In fact, the area surrounding Kazaringa has become a magnet for birders seeking out rare Asian birds. The park has 4 gates. Each is between a half hour to an hour apart. This is a huge park measuring some 166 square miles, or about the size of a large city. Within each gate, there are miles of dirt roads ideally laid out for Jeeps to get as close to areas where wildlife congregates. And this park keeps track of their megafauna, doing census work on a yearly basis. These are animals that poachers literally aim for, and protection is job one. The numbers for the park are impressive, with over 1,800 rhinos, 1,400 water buffalo, and 1,250 elephants. That translates into 12,000 tons of wildlife in just those 3 species. That is a lot of weight for a park to support, even a park as large as Kazaringa. We have time for 2 drives and an elephant safari. With a little luck, we should be able to see all of the big 3, rhino, buffalo, and elephant, and some of the other game that the park is famous for. These big 3 are potentially dangerous, so we will have to be alert for any signs of aggression. If we stay in our Jeeps, we should be fine. But people on foot have been killed by each of these magnificent creatures. As long as you listen to the local drivers and rangers, you'll be safe. But as an added precaution, here, different from other parks in India, the rangers that ride with you carry guns. It's time for our first Jeep safari, and I'm bubbling over with excitement. Kazaringa has the world's largest population of one-horned rhinos, one of the larger populations of wild Asiatic elephants, and it is probably the best, and unfortunately, one of the only places where you can find wild water buffalo. In fact, there is no other place on Earth where all 3 can be seen in any sizable numbers. It doesn't take long before we spot the park's signature animal, the one-horned rhino. Of the big 3, it is the rhino that is the symbol of not only the park, but Assam wildlife in general. Rhinoceros have been poached worldwide for their horn for use as a male enhancement drug and as a decorative dagger handle. Of course, there is no truth that the horn has any medicinal value. It's the same material as your fingernails. So, in that theory, chewing your fingernails would, well, you get my point. Let's talk numbers for a minute. There are over 1,800 rhinos. Though that is a good population for this park, it is still vulnerable. A few years ago, major flooding in the park killed many of that year's young, and some adults as well. Rangers also told me that last year, over 100 rhinos were poached, even under the strict protective measures. Any funding reductions for guards and poaching could easily get out of control. Unlike their African cousins, which prefer dry to arid conditions, this one-horned rhino is a wetlands creature. Not only do they get their feet wet, they can often be found wading deep into ponds, eating the plants that thrive there. Another big difference between the one-horned rhino and the African species is just that, one horn, while the African rhinos have 2. Once found throughout the Indian subcontinent, they are now restricted to a few parks in India, Nepal, and Bhutan. Worldwide population hovers around 2,400. Ironically, of the 3 Asian rhino species, the Indian or one-horned rhino is king in numbers. There are so few Javan or Sumatran rhinos that wild sightings are almost non-existent. Captive breeding populations of one-horned rhinos are small, so the only long-term solution to preserve this ancient creature, probably little changed since the Ice Age, is saving its natural habitat, and the best in the world is Kazaringa. Not surprisingly, it is also the best place to preserve another rare and vulnerable species, the wild water buffalo. This member of the big 3 rivals the rhino in size, weighing in at a whopping 2,600 pounds. More impressive than its weight is the size of its horns. The distance between each end of the horns can reach 4 feet. And unlike the rhino's horn, which is not really a horn, these are real horns. A horn, by definition, is a bony material on the outside with living tissue on the inside. So they are permanent and can grow throughout the animal's lifetime. In contrast, members of the deer family, which include deer, elk, moose, and caribou, have antlers, which are shed each year. Antlers have the living tissue on the outside, at least during the antler's growth period, and the bony material on the inside, a reversal of a horn.